Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. So if you're wanting to build a better life, and who isn't, then you are in the right place for the next hour when we will take one small subject about building a better life and talk about it and hope that it resonates with you. Who do I mean by we? I mean myself, JDK Winnikin, and my lovely co-host, the one who brings all the energy into the room, every room she walks into, frankly, the straw that stirs the drink here at Staying Power, Ashley Knievel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, after that intro, I'm fantastic.
I always got to roll out the carpet for you.
And I hear it every week, but every time it feels like the first time.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's good. Well, I'm
nice.
so appreciative of you being here and being the co-host, as is everybody who listens. So, and thanks to all of you who are listening, wherever you happen to be. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are listening to this as a podcast, thank you so much for subscribing and for leaving us a review. And you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on our YouTube channel where you can watch the show and all of that. That's us waving. And you can also find out more about us at 11:50 a.m. KKNW at our show page there. In all of those locations, there are links to our social media. There's our email, stayingpowershow@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, so please reach out, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, Ashley, let's talk about values.
Okay.
What do you think? Okay, this comes from last week's episode. Last week, when we were talking about moving from making a decision to acting on it, I mentioned kind of, the value system that we have. It's so important for us to anchor all our actions in values rather than in our moods.
Right.
And I just kind of in passing mentioned our favorite values assessment, any values assessments out there from the VIA, right? Values Institute. And I put the link in the show notes. And then we got feedback from listeners saying, wow, that's a really great thing. What are your values? And I realized we haven't really necessarily talked about our values. So what do you think about taking our listeners today through this values assessment a little bit
Oh, I think
about
it's
what
great.
it's like? And we can learn a little bit about each other along the way. What do you think?
I really like this idea because you and I have both taken that survey, but we've never compared our results before.
This is true. We have not compared our results. So
We'll see what comes out.
So is the best way probably, Ashley, for me to kind of quickly lay out what the assessment looks like and then how it works? Probably.
That would be a good thing.
Right.
For listeners and viewers who have, they don't know what this is.
Right.
You got to lead
What
them
this
around.
is. Right. So this is really what VIA calls a strengths assessment. And it's a test of about 100 questions that you answer really rapid fire. And it kind of breaks down what your strengths/values are in a ranking from 1 to 24. Now, the ranking isn't that the one at the top is the one that's your favorite and the one at 24 is your least favorite. It means the strengths that we all have, we have all 24 of these, but how they show up in your everyday life, right? And that type of thing. And the idea is to get a sense of what truly matters to ourselves, where our strengths are, and get a sense of maybe we're surprised that some are higher than we thought or some are lower than we thought. And then have conversations about if you wanted to bring one up the scale a little bit, how could you create an action plan to bring more of that into your life? First time I took this assessment, one of the 24 strengths is zest, like zest for life. I considered myself a pretty fun person, but zest scored at like 22. And I went, wait, what? How is zest that low? And I realized what the problem was. It wasn't that I don't enjoy having fun or don't have zest for life. I wasn't taking a lot of initiative to create it in my life. I was just responding from other people being like, hey, do you want to go do this? Or do you want to join us for this?
Interesting.
So instead of me going, okay, I need more zest in my life, it was more about what can I do to intentionally plan more fun things for me and bring other people along, right?
Gotcha.
So that's the kind of thing that it's meant to do. It's a tool. It's a way to kind of get a sense of what truly matters and maybe what you would like to matter more or maybe matter a little less, right? So that's what it's for. And of course, Ashley, you and I use this with our clients all the time.
Right.
Right.
It's really insightful. When I took it, you have this idea of yourself, right? And you're like, okay, this is who I see myself as, and this is who I hope that I am if other people are looking back at me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you take this, and sometimes it's a little humbling and really eye-opening, some of the things that come out of it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I am excited for us to share.
Okay. Sounds good. So we haven't looked at each other's before, right? So should we just, and we have, for those of you listening, we have copies here in the studio, and I'm showing on our feed. We have copies. Should we just hand them to each other?
No, because I wrote notes on mine.
Oh, you wrote notes on yours. Oh, okay. All right. So we're gonna go a different route. All right. So where would you like to start, Ashley? Should we start at the top with some of our top 5, maybe, or bottom 5? You want to start with the top
5?
Okay.
What's your top third?
My top 5 in this order came out: love, curiosity, perspective, appreciation of beauty and excellence, and kindness. How do those resonate for you with me?
I'm just surprised like feelings wasn't in one of those.
Well, there's lots of feelings in there. Love, curiosity, perspective, kindness. Kindness is a feeling. It's a big feeling. Maybe you don't know what it is, but
oh my gosh, little do you know?
you're actually very kind. Yeah.
Of course I am. Okay. My top 5, no one's going to be surprised. Humor is my first one.
There's a shock.
Zest is my second. Honesty is my third.
Uh-huh.
Ding, ding. Kindness is my fourth. Thank you very much.
Look at that.
And love is my fifth.
Okay, so we actually
have
have,
some overlap.
we do. We have
Wow.
2, it sounds like 2.
Yeah,
We
love
have
and kindness.
Love and kindness in there, and curiosity you don't have.
I do not have
Perspective, not in the top 5.
Perspective.
Not top. Yeah, perspective.
I have no perspective. Apparently.
Actually, you have a lot of
It's
perspective.
number 8.
You have number 8?
Yeah. That's,
Okay,
anyways.
so all right, so we had kindness and love in the top 5. Okay, so let's start in here. First of all, we know each other pretty well,
Yeah.
right? It's fair to say, right? And if you're new to the show, Ashley and I have been friends for a few years now, and suffice it to say, when we first met and sat down and had a conversation, and we were in business networking circles, we hit it off, right? And we met for an hour, and then we ended up, how long did we end up hanging out?
4.5 hours.
4.5 hours, something like that. Yeah. And then over time, we ended up doing more and more conversations like this. And then we did the same coaching program, and it kind of all led to this about year and a half of you coming on the show here. And so we've had a lot of, obviously we must have enough in common that we're able to connect as well as we've connected, right? Built the friendship, and now we're business partners. So it seems to me that having a little bit of overlap at the top is not a surprise, but I also think having some differences is helpful. So love and kindness we'll come back to, but you also had what else? What was those in the top?
Humor, zest, and honesty.
Okay, so humor for me was at 12. Zest was at 17.
Wow, well, we talked about that one.
And honesty, where is honesty? 18.
Off the charts.
17
Really?
and 18, yeah.
Now, here's something for the listeners, because just because it's on the lower end of the scale, because it's closer to the end of this than the beginning, that doesn't mean he's not an honest person.
Yes, thank you.
Right? Well, because I mean, that could be interpreted that way.
It could.
And
There's a thank you. Thank you. There's a little description though with honesty. You should
Right.
read the description.
Oh, it says my name. Oh, no, I'm
Right.
kidding. Speaking the truth, but more broadly, presenting oneself in a genuine way and acting in a sincere way, being without pretense, taking responsibility for one's feelings and actions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that shows up very prominently for you, I know, in a way that is very evident to anybody who talks to you. Now, one thing that's interesting, and this is something I think I should share, for me, honesty moving up the scale, I think is an accomplishment, because back in the days when I was really struggling, 12, 15 years ago, honesty was very, very low. It would have been dead last, if not even further
Really?
beyond that. Yeah, because I did not know how to show up in an authentic way. I didn't know how to really speak the truth. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be accepted wherever I was, whoever I was with. I just kind of made myself fit wherever I was. So I didn't have that skill. Acting in a sincere way, not as much. Being without pretense, maybe. Taking responsibility for one's feelings and actions, I didn't know what that meant.
Oh, really?
For a long time. Yeah. So for me, I think 18 is still coming up. Each time I've taken it, it's been a little bit higher.
Oh.
But that is probably the one area where I would like to be more intentional with those things. Part of that exercise is doing this show, actually. It's one of the reasons I started doing this show, because I wanted
Really?
because I wanted to be talking about things that were truly happening with me, in me, honestly, for people to hear and be accountable for it, right? When you put your stuff out there, you put your stuff out there. So
I did not know that.
you didn't know that.
Wow. Okay. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank
on
you.
Moving on up the scale.
Thank you. All right, so let's flip it around. Where did curiosity, perspective, and appreciation of beauty and
for
excellence?
heaven's
Those were in
sakes.
my top 5.
All right. Curiosity landed 12 for me. What were the other ones?
Perspective,
Okay. Let me find perspective. Maybe it's hiding. Oh, number 8.
number 8. Yeah, I was going to say that's higher than you're giving yourself credit for, I think. And then
Oh.
appreciation of beauty and excellence,
Oh, that one was 19.
19.
Which,
Okay.
that one was a little bit baffling, I guess. But then when I thought about all the questions I answered in this thing, I'm like, no, that tracks actually.
Why is that?
Because the questions, I think that the way that they were posed, there were a few of them I was like, well, I could answer this or that. Like I was kind of on the fence, but it's supposed to be rapid fire.
Right.
And so I know I defaulted to obviously a particular type of answer. And I think it was more of like a 51-49 type of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, those were.
Well, it's worth saying the definition of appreciation and beauty and excellence, according to this, is noticing and appreciating beauty, excellence, and or skilled performance in various domains of life, from nature to art to mathematics to science
You know what?
to everyday experience.
That's why. Because it doesn't talk about appreciating it in oneself. Because if it was like in yourself, clearly that would be like my
You have no
second
trouble.
one,
You have no trouble. with
obviously.
that. Yeah,
That's
you
why.
are very self-affirming in that sense and self-believing. But it's interesting because every one of these 24 fits under a certain category. There's varying categories that some of them are grouped under. So humanity, wisdom, transcendence. Let's see, there's other ones. There's temperance, there's courage, there's justice. I think that's it. I mean, so all of these are there. And so these top ones are the ones that show up the most. So, Ashley, your top 5 again for the listener.
Oh, humor, obviously. Zest, honesty, kindness, and love.
Okay, and what are the categories those are in?
Oh,
They're listed underneath there.
transcendence for humor, courage for zest, courage for honesty, humanity for kindness, and humanity for love.
Okay, and so you and I have love and kindness in similarity, and those are both under humanity. Curiosity for me is under wisdom, as is perspective, and then the transcendence I have is appreciation and beauty and excellence.
That's so interesting that we each only have one transcendence.
We each only have
I have
one.
2 courage and you have 2 wisdom.
I have 2 wisdom,
Oh,
and then we have the same number on
humanity.
humanity.
The same ones.
Okay. Yeah. And now none of those that you lay out for me are surprising to me at all. I think all of those things, humor, zest, honesty, kindness, and love. Yeah. Those are words that I would use as adjectives to describe
Yeah.
you if I was given the choice. I don't know if I would. I think all the other ones matter too. Just so really quickly, we don't overwhelm everybody, but here's some of the other ones that are in this list. Gratitude, social intelligence, spirituality, creativity, love of learning, hope, forgiveness, leadership, judgment, humility. Neither one of us had that really high.
Well,
Fairness, bravery, prudence, teamwork, perseverance, and self-regulation. We'll talk about the bottom of the list. We'll get to that. We're going to get to the bottom of the list later. So we're not just going to talk about the
I
stuff
wonder
that's
if we
at
have
the top.
any in common in the lower half.
We
of the
might.
list.
We might. We'll get there. We'll get there. We have a whole show to do
Got a
this
lot
on.
to dissect here.
To do this on. Okay, so of those 5 that you have, were there any when you first took this where you went, "Oh, I'm really excited that one's at the top," or "That one's in the top 5"? Was there one?
Excited?
Yeah, or like,
Ooh.
or noticed in a way, or stood out to you for some reason. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just
No,
something about it.
I got like a little giddy happy when I realized that humor and honesty were in the top ones because there was something really affirming about that. Because I'm like, I think I'm funny, but
You are.
I don't know if other people find me funny, And it's different when no one else is laughing and you're the only one laughing your own joke. So that one, but then again, this is me answering those questions. So it's
Correct.
But
Correct.
that was interesting. And honesty is really important to me. That's like one of the founding pillars of myself is
Yeah.
being very honest
Yeah.
about things.
And self-honest, it's
Yeah.
important, and presenting that as you. That's a big deal for you.
So those felt really good to see them in my top
Okay.
spot.
Okay. I was really excited by two myself, curiosity and kindness. Again, because of where I once was in life, I was crafting a whole lot of things and keeping myself really contained and really small and not in a real authentic space. And the antidote to being able to step out of that in a lot of ways is curiosity, which is an outward. I'm curious about myself. I'm curious about the world. I'm curious about things I could learn. And I needed to be curious to make those changes. And kindness was also one that I was glad that showed up so high, because I wanted to believe, like you said, you always believed you were funny. I always believed I was kind. And yet, once upon a time when I was running and gunning, I did very unkind things, right? I was very, very selfish, and it harmed people. And so the idea that was still a value that I hadn't lost was exciting for me. Perspective, I guess, comes from, probably for me, comes so high because I studied history for so long. It's all about perspective, right?
I don't know how you studied that for so long, but good for you.
Well, I became really interested in how people operate, right? In that sense, and why they do what they do and what's changed over time, what's similar over time. It's probably my biggest area of curiosity is, why do human beings do what they do? And, what would happen if they did things differently? So, which I suppose is probably not all that uncommon from most people, but there's that. So, okay, let's see. Any in mine in here that jump out at you? Love, curiosity, perspective, appreciation of beauty and excellence, kindness. This is your opportunity to say something really great about me if you want to. Or not.
Wow. Perhaps I'll save that for a second.
That's what it sounded like. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you off the hook on that one because we do have to take a break. So let's take our first break here on Staying Power. Today we're talking about values. What are they? How do you know what they are? How do you know how to shift them around if that's what you want to do? That's what we're here talking about. So we'll be back here in just a minute on Staying Power.
When I smoke weed, I get lost in the music. I like to isolate each instrument. The rhythmic bass, the harmonies on the piano, the sticky melody.
Hey, careful, babe. There's someone crossing the street.
Sorry, I didn't see him there.
If you feel different, you drive different. Don't drive high. It's dangerous and illegal everywhere. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And we are talking about values, particularly the values assessment that Ashley and I have mentioned a few times on the air in recent weeks, and kind of comparing notes on this, on what values we have in common at the high end. And in just a minute, we're going to talk about the values that we each have on the lower side of the test. But first, let's pause here to do our weekly segment where Ashley and I each take 2 minutes to talk about something that's happened in the week that was either a triumph or a terror, what we learned from it, and hopefully it applies or you relate to it. Let's just do this. It is 2 minutes of triumph here. Okay, Ashley.
My goodness,
I know,
every time.
I know, every time. So
Every time.
what is yours for this week, Ashley?
I'm not always like that girl, but
But today you're going to be?
this season, I finally got myself a pumpkin spice latte.
Oh, my goodness.
It was delicious.
Wow.
What?
You're not a PSL person?
I mean,
normally?
I don't go like totally obsessive about that. Like, I might get a candle or something and the beverage and that's it. Like, I don't do pumpkin everything. Go that extreme. But, 'tis the season.
Well, that's good.
So it was delicious. It was as good as I remembered it being last year. So that was nice.
Is that like the official beginning of fall for you, or do you, when you have one?
Yeah.
Kind of?
You gotta
Okay.
wait until you feel that little hint of the crisp air and it's a little bit cooler. Like, you just wake up and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel a little breezy today. And then I'm like, pumpkin spice latte. We're just going to start it now.
Nice.
It was good.
Nice.
It was
Okay.
definitely a highlight of the week.
Okay. Yeah, you've had a busy few weeks. Okay, well, that's a good one. I'm sure lots of people can relate to that.
Right?
I like pumpkin spice stuff too. I don't really go crazy for it. Now that you mentioned that, I kind of want one. So,
You're welcome.
anybody wants to, send me one, please.
JD
do.
wants to go out to coffee with
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly. All right. Mine is actually in the kind of culinary area as well. I love to cook, as you know, and I love to experiment, right, with trying different things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Lately, I've been experimenting on different recipes with my air fryer, right?
Ooh.
And I'm not one of those
nice.
people, right? I'm not one of the air fryer. You're not a PSL. You're not that girl.
You're not an
I'm
air
not
fryer?
that guy. I'm not the air fryer guy. I do like them, though.
Yeah, they're great.
But I've been experimenting with doing roasts, like beef roasts in them. And I absolutely created the perfect marinade for a roast that you cook in
Really?
the air fryer. Yep. Not only did it taste great, it did exactly what it was supposed to do in terms of the meat texture and how it worked, and it cooked perfectly. It was absolutely one of the best things I've ever made, right, meals-wise. And I timed it perfectly with all the sides that I made with it. So not only did I nail the recipe, I nailed the presentation,
Yeah.
and it was perfect. So,
That sounds so nice.
oh, it was really good.
Have you ever made a steak in your air fryer?
I have.
They're fantastic.
They are. Yeah, you got to time it right, because if it goes wrong, you
Yeah.
you can overcook it, particularly if you like it like I do, like medium rare.
Like
You don't
I
want
do
to
as
go
well.
too far. That was really fun because I love to cook. It's actually relaxing for me, and I feel like I'm doing good things for myself by doing it. Believe it or not.
That's so funny. You find it relaxing. It's
I
so
do.
stressful for me.
Oh, no. I absolutely love it. And I never question the time I take to do it. It's always worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's why I think sometimes, and some people have said, one of these days, maybe you need to like start a food truck or something like that. I got some ideas in the back of my mind. Maybe someday. As if I'm
Okay.
not doing enough already.
Yeah. One project at a time here.
One at a time.
All right.
Okay, so let's get back to this values assessment. So we had a lot in common at the top, particularly love and kindness as these values. And once again, for listeners, these are the ones that show up the most, right? In how we view ourselves, how we act, how we see the world, that type of thing. Doesn't mean that the ones we're about to talk about that are at the bottom aren't present. It means that's just in some way how they sort out according to this test. They just come up a little bit lower in how they show up in life. So let's talk about the bottom 5. So 20 through 24. And so maybe this time, Ashley, since each one of them is its own category and then it has the subcategory, let's read those too, like the general category they're under. So what are your 20 through 24?
Okay. 20 through 24. Well, we already knew that 19 was appreciation of beauty and excellence, like we mentioned earlier.
That's right,
So no
for you.
surprise there.
Okay.
20 was creativity, which falls under wisdom. That totally tracks. Perseverance, which is under courage. That one was surprising. Bravery, which also falls under courage. A little surprising. Prudence, which falls under temperance. No surprise there. And last, but certainly not the least, was humility.
Whereas mine, humility, was 16.
I'm just saying,
Now, and again, for listeners, this
That's
does
okay.
not mean I'm more humble than Ashley. It doesn't mean that, right? Doesn't mean that. It means it might. It might.
I mean, I have a pretty low bar for humility, so it might not be hard. But
Okay,
anyways.
so
What about yours?
mine we have some in common again.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Look
20
At us.
for me was bravery.
Okay.
21st was prudence.
Okay.
22 was teamwork.
Really?
This one did not surprise me. I am a solo
I was
operator.
gonna say you are. Yeah. That's.
I am a solo operator. I have a funny story about that in a
Okay.
minute. Perseverance, 23, that surprised me. 23, that surprised me.
Yeah.
And then 24th, self-regulation.
What?
I know. It was, and I think, again, that comes back to kind of unlearning lots of things over the last decade or so. When you're in the throes of addiction and you're in that hole, you are not self-regulating.
That's valid.
You are not. And you certainly aren't prudent either. All those things. So I think there's some of that. But I think what that reveals is, in people who know me well, and Ashley, you know me well, you know that There are times when you and I have conversations where I'll share something with you that's really bothering me, and you'll be like, I have no idea that was, you'll say, I have no idea that was even bothering you. That fits under self-regulation, right? Because obviously stuff's turning around internally, right? A lot. I think it's better. I'd like to take this again. I took this, the last time I took this was 6 months ago.
Okay.
So, and usually what we do with clients is have them retake it about every 3 months, right? With that, because particularly if there's intentional work with it. And I always, every time I do this, I try to do intentional work with stuff at the bottom and in the middle and that type of thing. All right. So what were the ones that surprised you, and why did they surprise you?
First of all, I noticed that you and I have 3 in common on the lower end of the scale.
Which are, once again?
Perseverance, bravery, and prudence.
Okay. Where did self-regulation and teamwork end up for you?
That's a great question. Teamwork was 18.
Okay.
Self-regulation was 14.
Okay. Okay, that tracks. I think that tracks with what you were talking about earlier with one of your higher scoring ones. Your ability to kind of be contained, your honesty.
Oh,
piece.
yeah.
I think it tracks with that. I think those things fit together.
Okay.
Okay, so what did you say surprised you? Prudence didn't surprise you.
No, not at all.
Right. Not taking undue risk. And that's the definition. Being careful about one's choices, not taking undue risks, not saying or doing things that might later be regretted.
Right. Which I say that a little bit lightheartedly because when it comes to certain matters, I certainly take time to really think them through and weigh out options and whatnot.
Right.
However, there is a little side of me that I call it like shiny object syndrome, and I don't know if it's an actual syndrome. I should probably look that up. However, it's like I get this idea or this thing that's really attractive and fascinating, and it looks like fun, and I'm like, oh, I want to do it. I'll give myself like a small, ample amount of time to think about it, and then if I'm still erring on the side of like, this sounds like a great idea, I'll just like, yeah, let's go for it. And then there's sometimes later I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. That's why. So that was all right.
Gotcha.
I think bravery was one that and perseverance were the 2 that I think out of that entire little section that I was surprised by.
Okay, why?
For myself.
Why? Let's talk about those, because I was surprised and a little dismayed for myself that bravery and perseverance. Yeah, I was a little dismayed. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, perseverance, the definition that they have is finishing what one starts, persevering in course of action in spite of obstacles, getting it out the door, and taking pleasure in completing tasks. I really love completing tasks. Like, I'll make myself a to-do list just so I can check it off. However, there is something about an accomplishment of completing something that feels very good. And usually I know myself to be very good about finishing things that I started. I was not before. When I was younger, I wasn't. I've gotten a lot better. The other one was bravery, which is not shrinking from threat, challenge, difficulty, or pain, speaking up for what's right, even if there's opposition, acting on convictions, even if unpopular, includes physical bravery, but is not limited to. So that was a surprise because speaking up, even when it's in opposition, I guess there are moments where I feel like hesitation, but that would, to me, be in the same vein as being honest.
Okay.
And so I'm like, if I'm very comfortable being honest and whatnot, then why would I not be more brave?
Okay. I suppose if it's something that you feel really strongly about, I mean, are there things you feel so strongly about, it doesn't matter what anybody would say, you would speak up in defense of them? Absolutely. Sure. Me too. Are there things that you feel fairly strongly about that, depending on the company you're in, you're just not going to fight that battle in that moment?
Actually, maybe that's a good point. There's times where I'm like, you must know the crowd that you're around. Some people are just not worth it.
Exactly. Because I think that's part of it.
It could be.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. You know, it's because but then of course that would be prudence. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, no, and again, all of these fit together and we can all show. So like there can be moments where your bottom one, humility, could show up really high in a given situation, right? This is not meant to be something that predicts how your life's going to go or gives some sort of, clear imprint about who you are for the rest of time. It means just in this moment in time, this is the mixture of strengths that we all can have. And I'm self-regulation's at the bottom. I can tell you there are certain things in my life that I maintain self-regulation on as a matter of intention and course every day because of where I've been before.
Mm-hmm.
I take it in some ways, it could be a positive. It's like, okay, so it's not taking up so much of my attention this need for me to self-regulate, that it's flushing out everything else and pushing it lower. So it's meant to explore these things. It's kind of our own sense of how all these things fit together and show up at a given moment. It's interesting that we have 3 at the bottom. Bravery, prudence, perseverance. Finishing what one starts, that's a newer thing for me. I love to
Really?
start new things, and yeah, and then there'd be times it would be tough for me to finish them. If a task is something for me that proves really difficult for a long time, it was something I would just keep putting off, and then think I could come back to it later, but eventually end up having to ask for help and all
Sure.
that. So these days, depending on what it is, the obstacles I won't worry about. Like when I wrote my novel, that took perseverance. It took me 3 years to write. I finished that, and there was never any question, right? So there was that. So on something big, what's interesting for me, the hardest things for me to finish sometimes are like the smallest things, the smallest tasks, like a to-do list like you do.
Yeah.
Give me 10 of those, and I just look at it and go, ugh.
I mean, to be fair, 10 things on a to-do list is pretty daunting.
Oh, is it?
Well, commonly, as I've read and studied and whatnot, that, a to-do, I guess it depends on what the reason is for the to-do list. But if you're using it as a real tool to accomplish big tasks, then you only want like 3 on there. Because you do want to set yourself up for success.
I see.
Now, if it's like over the span of the weekend and you're like, okay, I know I got to like clean my car, do the laundry, do this, put that all on there, and you will come up with a handful of things and you'll probably get them all done.
That's true.
I just get mine all done in one day because then
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
on to the next one.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, you get a sense of accomplishment out of it. I don't really. I get more of a sense of relief. But then there's always this knowledge that I could probably come up with 10 more things to create a new list. So it doesn't always feel that way. Okay. And then I had teamwork, which was pretty low. It's interesting. I said when that came up, I had a funny story about it.
Yeah.
I've mentioned on the show before that I've been doing some bartending on the side, right? Develop a new skill and, create a new revenue stream for myself. It's been a lot of fun. But the pub that I'm working at has a fantasy football league that they're in, right? And so I got entered in this fantasy football league for the NFL season that just started. And they set it up for me. I wasn't paying too close of attention. And so I said, okay, well, just give me a certain name. Just put my name on it. When I go in, I'll pick a team name and all that. They put me in there as Lone Wolf JD. And these are people I've been working with for like 3 months, not even 3 months. And if they put me in as Lone, I have changed it, of course, but I saw Lone Wolf, I was like, whoa. And I was weirdly both perplexed and excited by that. I was like, oh, all right, Lone Wolf. I like the idea. The wolf out on his own. He's confident, right? He's taking care of business. He's on it. But then Lone Wolf doesn't necessarily have the best connotation depending on the context, right? And so there was a part of me that was like, really, do I come across that way? And so I brought it up with these people. I was like, why did you guys call me Lone Wolf? And it was actually a couple of my coworkers who said, because JD, you just come in and you do your thing, and things that bother other people don't bother you. You just kind of keep going. Just have this sense of yourself, and just Lone Wolf is what we came up with. So they meant it well, right? But I thought it was interesting. Okay, I guess I'm not really a team player. Even though I think in the context of where I was at, they've all said you're a great person to work with. So clearly I know how to work in a team, but there's something in there that maybe I just don't seek it out. I don't know.
That's just interesting. That story came up for you, that when they call you that, it equates to that you're not a team player because of being called that.
Why? Do you see it differently?
No, but why does that relate to you?
Because a lone wolf, a team requires other people. A teamwork would be a pack of wolves, right? They work together, but a lone wolf is not really a team player. And why is it a lone wolf? Did it get kicked out? Is it on its own?
Maybe he didn't like his pack.
Maybe he didn't like
he
his
elevated up beyond it.
There's so many ways we could go into this. That would
Clearly, I take the best way.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying to give you some props here.
I appreciate it. But here's what I like about what we're talking about, because there are a lot of ways to look at it. And here's the thing. It's not so much about what are the numbers 1 through 24. It's about the introspection that it encourages to take a look at each one of these things and go, how does this show up in my life? So for me, that question about lone wolf versus teamwork, just by the very fact that happened and that teamwork is in this spot that it is, I look at it and go, okay, how well do I do in a team? Right? And I think in the context of the pub I work at, I do really well. That I take direction well. I work with other people well. I think it's more about how I view putting together my life, my bigger things. I've been on my own for a really long time, and so I make my own decisions. I don't have a partner or kids that I'm making decisions with or for, and I have a lot of help with the decisions I make in my extended family. And so for me, in a lot of ways, it's just me with that. So I think in that regard, I have a tendency to just do things on my own. But I, of course, have found out that by sharing with people, asking people's help on certain things, I do open myself up to being more of a team and experience other people being on my terms of helping me through life. Like I get a lot of financial advice from friends of mine who know how to do this stuff better than I do. That just helps me. But I think I have a default of I've got to do a lot of this stuff on my own, in part because I'm used to doing it. But that's the whole thing. So with that kind of introspection, what's something on that list for you that does that? Or are we running? Oh, we're running low on time. We got to take a break, don't we? God, second segment in a row, you get saved by the bell, by the way.
You know what? Carry on.
Carry on. Okay. All right. So we'll be back after just our second break here on Staying Power. Ashley and I will wrap up this discussion today of this values assessment we're doing and what it might mean for you going forward. Okay, we'll be right back.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, though, may I ask if there are any unlocked guns in your home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Get your daily dose of variety. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And we are talking about values and values assessment, in particular the VIA. That's the Institute on Character. It's their list of strengths. And Ashley and I finished last segment talking about the ones that were in our bottom, the lowest on the list. And Ashley, I'm not letting you off the hook, as it turns out. I asked you a question, like with one of those last ones, one of them, that you're not sure about, but you appreciate the fact that it got you thinking about, or has you thinking about it. What's the value of the conversation or the analysis you're giving yourself in it?
You know, I probably will not take that nearly as far as you did with yourself on the teamwork one.
Yeah, you're not the lone wolf identity thing.
No, that's not coming up. I would say the creativity one, it was very spot on, and I'm not surprised. And honestly, I'm totally okay with that.
Okay.
Because considering what you said about how you enjoy cooking, and I find that totally, it makes me so nervous and stressed and whatever, because I feel like with cooking, it's like, oh, try a little of this and add a little of that, and oh, try a little taste, and oh, it needs this. I don't have that. I'm like, I need the rules just so I know to make this thing turn out okay, because otherwise I don't know.
So
and
you
I don't
follow
have
the recipe
that.
really close.
That's why I like baking.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It has to be measured to a T.
That's true.
There's not a lot of room for
And it's probably
that.
why I don't like baking.
Probably.
Ah,
Wow.
There we go. There you
Well,
go.
All right. Look at us learning things.
Right.
Anyways, to answer your question on the hook, I would say probably perseverance and bravery. They kind of both go, I feel like they're a bit
They do.
pretzeled in regards to
They
that.
do. Yeah, they are.
But those are ones that when I realized that they were further down on this list, came to mind of ones that I would like to improve on.
Okay. Okay. And do you have a sense of how you'd like to improve on them?
Well, it's a really good question.
If there's not an answer, there's not an answer, obviously.
I think maybe especially with like bravery is, not shrinking from a threat, challenge, difficulty, whatnot. If I am so confident in myself and the things that I know, I do know there are times where I feel a hesitation to speak up. And I would like to explore in that why.
Okay.
Is it that I think I'm going to get in trouble? Because I know sometimes I can be a little bit raw and a little bit robust with things I say. And maybe I hesitate because I don't know if my delivery is going to land well.
Okay.
And it may not come out as eloquently as it sounds in my brain.
Okay.
Or the idea of when it truly is an opposition, is it worth speaking up for? Is it one that I feel so connected to that it deems it necessary to speak up? And will my opinion change anything?
So in that sense, perhaps for you in a situation like that, speaking up just on its own is one thing. Having it change something is something you'd like to do. But that's interesting because we could frame it as speaking up for yourself is just a good thing to do for yourself. It changes something or not. So it raises an interesting question about that relationship, does it? That's interesting.
Well, and you know, kind of like in a classroom setting, there's the students that whenever the teacher like poses a question, it's always the first ones that raise their hand. Because they're, like JD, that like one, like I know the answer and I want to talk. And then there's the other ones that just pretend to look like they're really paying attention but are kind of busy. So then the teacher just like glazes over them, almost like they're earnestly hoping that they get picked on so they don't get picked on.
Right.
Usually it backfires.
Okay.
And then, you know, there's the ones that kind of shrink around that are just like praying and that they don't get called on. And I used to kind of be like the one in the middle.
Okay.
Where I was like, all right, if they call on me, sure, I can talk. But like, I'll let somebody else who's obviously wanting to talk take the floor. But now I would want to answer if I were in that setting. Who I am today, I know I'd want to speak because I'm like, my opinion actually does matter. And I have something important to say. But I don't have a lot of important things to say about everything.
Sure.
And so if I can kind of nestle into that one and feel better about myself on certain things, then I'd be probably more apt to speaking up.
Okay. That's you said you weren't going to go in as deep as I did
like
on the teamwork
politics
thing.
and college football. I have no idea on either one.
You said you weren't going to go real deep into yours, and you did. I think you actually went deeper than I went with the whole lone wolf
Did I
thing.
take up the whole segment?
No. Oh, it's crushed. I didn't take up the whole segment talking about it. Anyway, wow. Okay.
Moving on.
I'm so glad that our listeners have come to expect this, because otherwise it might be awkward. But
perhaps.
Yeah, anyway, nevertheless. All right, so now I'm going to put you on the spot again, Ashley, because this isn't just something, we really do encourage everybody to do this, right? And to take a look at it. And again, you don't have to put a ton of weight into it. It doesn't mean everything. It's just a really good thought and analysis and self-introspection piece to really take a look at and see what you agree with and what you don't. And there are things in here I agree with, and there are things in here that I don't, right? But the very fact that it's lower on something, which tends to be what I don't agree with, has me thinking about it, has me intentionally paying attention to it. I think that's always a good thing to do. Ashley, I know that you have done this not just for yourself, but you've also done it in other areas of your life and found it very applicable. And I think there are listeners out there I think would appreciate hearing about that.
All right. That is totally fine putting me on the spot with that. Yes, this has been really interesting, fascinating, quite frankly, to do this with people that you work with. Now, I have not done it with everybody that I work with, but I have done it with the owner of the place that I work. And that was really interesting to learn what they think were their strengths and what they thought mine were. And to be honest, after we did this and we got to work with you, actually you helped us with coaching through that process. And it was great because it really highlighted areas that we are good in and areas that obviously we could use some growth and improvement. But then it helped me figure out why I'm frustrated about things sometimes. Then I'm like, oh, it's not that he's not answering back or he's not doing these things I've asked or, whatever it might be, or in conversation, it's because that's not one of his strengths. And so I have this expectation because it's one of my strengths. And until I learned that it was not one of his, then I'm like, oh, well, if it's not his strength, then I can't expect him to excel at this to my level and vice versa.
Right.
There are things that he has that I don't. And that's why we fit well in the roles that we're in. But it really helped solidify those things and answer questions for both of us. Because then you're like, you really see who that person is. And then you're like, okay, well, let's put them in where their strongest suit is.
Yeah.
and where they're going to thrive.
Right.
Why would you not do that?
Right. But you have to be able to recognize it first. And one of the things I noticed in that whole process was you had very different top and bottoms, but you also figured out why that could be an asset, right? Whereas before that, it was not like you guys were in conflict all the time. You weren't. But it took out that lack of clarity. Like, why does this person do it this way, not this way? Why, it's so frustrating. To recognize that those were just completely different sets, the conversation you guys had about how you could accomplish the same goals, because you had the same goals. You were aligned on the same goals for the business. You were aligned on the same values for what you wanted to see in the practice. You were also really aligned on what you wanted to see from the employees. So what was interesting about that was how quickly you guys ended up having a conversation about, okay, we're aligned on all these other things, but when our strengths show up, they're not always the same ones. So where are the common parts that we could focus on instead? And you guys found like 3 or 4 of those that you both had in common a little lower down that have helped in that process. So that was a handful of months ago.
It was. Actually, I would be interested in doing this again. We took it roughly the same time, and I did mine in June.
Okay.
So a few months ago. So maybe in a few months we should do this again.
Yeah.
See where we end up. But I would highly recommend for people who haven't done this yet, if you are in a workspace where maybe you're a manager and you can actually delegate it out to your staff and your team members and whatnot to do it, or in your family you could do this, or like in your partnership you could do this. There's so many ways, but it's really interesting. Sometimes you go and you join groups or you join a workplace and they have you fill out these things. It's like, what's your favorite candy? And those fun little frolical details about you. That is like, oh, if you want to get them a gift, like, okay, go and look at the list. But I'm like, why don't you look at the values of a person? Because then you know who you're actually working with and you know what's important to them. And so then depending on what task they're handed or situation they're in, how they're going to do. Because I know if I were to have my staff take this, which I very well might do if they're listening, just watch out. But, because then I know the situations that a lot of my staff members are in consistently. And if I know that something's going to come up and it's on one of the lower end of their list, then I can already prepare of how can I support them? How can I help them? Because this is probably an area they're not super comfortable with.
Yeah.
Or, something of that nature. So this is, if people are considering this, we'll definitely link in the show notes.
Oh, absolutely.
Where it is. But I would highly recommend that people do it just for fun, even, to learn about yourself. The fact that we took this, and some of the ones, even the ones in the middle, there were times I'm like, oh, like this one for 13 was social intelligence for me.
Oh, yeah?
Where was that for you?
Social intelligence was 7 for me.
That's so interesting.
Did you think yours would be lower or higher? Or do you want it lower or higher? I guess is a better question.
It's a great question. Well, because I remember when I answered the questions that were like social intelligence, I'm like, oh, I am totally usually aware of how people are doing and feeling and what's going on with them to an extent. And then this was something I learned of myself because of taking this. So I'm not like super proud of this detail, but here we are sharing. I was like, oh, there's times I totally understand where people are at, and there's times I totally don't care. Now, take that with a lovely grain of salt, because
there's the honesty.
Yes, in certain regards, it totally matters.
Right.
And I must care.
Right.
And then there's some times where it's like, we got to shape up and get a task done, and we'll stow this until later.
Sure. But certainly in the context of a workplace, I can see the benefit of like, look, you have a sense of how people are feeling. And yes, it doesn't change the decision that needs to be made, but doesn't having that awareness in some ways craft or influence how you express to them what that you want them to do, and how you express the fact that you don't care, or maybe that it's not as important. I think you're putting too fine a point on it.
Maybe.
I don't think it's that you don't care. It's just not as important in that sense, as the task has to get done and this has to exist alongside it, right? It doesn't take away what needs to get done. And that's got to be it's got to be a tough balance when you're managing people like that.
It can be, because I manage a lot of people, and I view it, the more I'm getting into management and whatnot, I view it as like, I'm navigating a very large ship, and all the staff and the team members and whatnot, they are like all the weather and all the things that can happen. So if everyone's happy-go-lucky, it's smooth sails. No big deal. Everything's grand. We're going at a great pace. We're getting to our destination. All is good. Things happen. People have personal lives. You know, then all of a sudden it's really rocky waves, or there's a horrible storm, or,
Right.
you know, like things happen. We run out of rations on the boat, whatever it might be. And then that's something I have to figure out how to handle while still navigating, trying to get to where we're going, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. That's a
And
great example.
so it's like, I don't want to be like, I don't care if the weather sucks. We're still going somewhere. Obviously, I care because it's going to affect everybody that's on my ship.
Right.
But I
Well,
also can't care so much. That's all I focus on.
Right.
And I forget that we're going somewhere.
Right. And that's what's interesting about this example. Let's stick with that example for a minute. I think it's a really good one. If you had the rest of your staff take this, you would know what the skills of all your sailors are. And it would be a lot easier to talk to them about that. Like, look, when the storms hit, certain ones of us are steering the ship. And then each one of you has a job, has to get done in order for us to steer the ship. Or you got to get out of the way and just hunker down and let us do our jobs, right? I mean, there is that, right? There is that. And yet I think what can be really good about this is, imagine if you had, you have 12 staff take this, and you realize that all 12 of you have 2 in the top 10. Those are some things to anchor in on, right? As a leader, right? And as others go, okay, we all have this in common. So when the inevitable conflicts or differences of opinion or miscommunications happen, people have the ability to default to something. Say it's kindness or it's curiosity. You can always ratchet back and default to a kindness moment, to release the tension, or a curious moment, leading with curiosity instead of such a big deal, right? That's really good. Okay, cool. That's a great idea. So your staff is warned.
Well, that's right.
Right.
They pay attention.
Really good. Yeah, and I do think it's really good for anybody. And we will have it in the show notes, so you'll be able to just click on it and take a look. And where the link it'll take you to will give you the exam. You can take the test. It'll spit out a real quick copy like Ashley and I are reading from. Then you also have the options to get a little more in-depth reporting on these things. You have to pay a little bit of money for that, but this is free, this one that you can get. If you want to go in more depth, you can pay, I think it's like $15, $20 for a larger report. And this is one of the institutes that really does base this in the latest research in psychology, in neuroscience, neuroplasticity. So all of this is based from top of the line experts from around the world doing this. It's one of the reasons why we gravitate towards it. Once again, though, it's about what it can help us explore, right? And one of the things that this show is about and fundamentally pushes is building a better life is about, in a lot of ways, assessing the one that you're currently in, deciding what works for you, deciding what doesn't work for you anymore, and knowing the steps you can take to move through where you are to where you want to go. So, Ashley, thanks.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And can I point out that this was your segment to talk about? Can I point that out?
Yep.
I did.
I
Okay.
did that on purpose.
I did that on purpose. You wanted to even things out again?
My turn.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for doing this with me and being so honest.
Absolutely.
All right. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode of Staying Power. Remember, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Please, please, please subscribe, leave us a review, go to our YouTube page, follow our live stream. So many different ways to get in touch with us and to stay connected with us. And there's more to come in the coming weeks. So we're excited about that. We'll be back next week with another episode where we talk about some other way we can help a better life. And as always, I'm just JD.
I'm always Ashley.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.